Welcome or welcome back. I'm Tally, and today we're going to go through my predictions for the Goodreads Award nominees in the horror category. So I've picked 20 books that I think have the potential of being in the long list for the horror category of the Goodreads Awards 2024. I have read one of these, I think, off the top of my head, so I'm completely winging it here. And last year I read the short list. I don't know if I could do that this year because I've read none of them. So I'll just quickly go through them. This is just what I think. Let me know in the comments any that you think will be in the list, and then we can check it out at the end if our lists align. So firstly, I think Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle will be a nominee. This is a queer book set in Hollywood. I read Chuck Tingle's last novel, Camp Damascus, and I thought it was really good. So I am actually really anticipating this book. It seems to be doing well in terms of reviews. Next is our standard Stephen King book, So You Like It Darker. This came out this year. Stephen King is always in this. Stephen King usually wins, so that's also why I don't really care for this the Goodreads Awards much anymore. It's very much a popularity contest. I think sometimes the way they do their categories is a little weird. They're also not very diverse, which is another issue. I do think there's the potential of 2 Stephen Graham Jones books on the long list. So we have The Angel of Indian Lake, which is the final book in the Indian Lake trilogy. My Heart is a Chainsaw, and what was the second one called? Oh, and Don't Fear the Reaper. They were both nominees previously, so I think there's no reason why the third book shouldn't be. It's still doing well in terms of reviews. He also had a standalone I Was a Teenage Slasher come out this year. Whilst it's not been as well received as his books usually are, it's still got a high enough average rating to be included, and I do think it will be included in the long list. Julia Armfield's new book, Private Rights, I think that this would definitely be in it. Our Wives Under the Sea, if I remember right, was a nominee a previous year, and this is like a literary speculative fiction with horror elements, which tends to be what Goodreads go for when they're looking for horror books. So I think that has a very high chance of making a long list. One that is quite interesting, Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I know Josh Malerman has been on the long list previously. This does meet the requirements. It's like 3.6 something. It's not getting great reviews though from people in the horror community, but on Goodreads it does meet that criteria. One that I'm not 100% sure on is My Darling Dreadful Thing. This is by Johanna Van Veen. So this is a queer, like, gothic romance-esque book. I do think that it is getting enough buzz that it would be considered though. Cuckoo by Gretchen Felker Martin. Their last book was on the long list. What was their last book called? Manhunt. It might have even been on the short list actually. And whilst this hasn't been received as well as their previous book was, I still think it has great potential to be at least on the long list. Indian Burial Ground by Nick Medina. I think this will definitely be on the long list. His previous book, Sisters of Lost Nation, was on the long list last year. And then we have Murder Road by Simone St. James. As far as I remember, Simone St. James is on the list every year that she releases something. Often I think that she should be categorized as mystery thriller, which arguably should be 2 separate categories anyway. But this one seems to lean more horror, so if it's going to be on any list, it's going to be on the horror list. The Woods All Black. Now this is a historical horror. It's also a novella, so I'm not 100% sure if it would, but I think it has the potential to be on the long list. Lee Mandello, was his other work on the list before? I think he's been on the long list previously. And Goodreads does tend to just pick the same authors over and over, which is why we end up with lists that lack diversity, and why you can often predict that Stephen King will win. The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. I think it would be an absolute tragedy if this was not on the shortlist. Everyone's been reading this. It's had special editions with so many book boxes. It seems to be really resonating with a lot of people, and I just want to see that on the shortlist. We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleaware. So this is the debut for this author. It was a no sleep story from Reddit, and it has now been traditionally published. It, I believe, will have a lot of votes. I think it will be in the shortlist. I think it'll be ridiculous if it's not, quite frankly. Rachel Harrison had So Firsty come out this year. This one is a vampire book. Rachel Harrison is always making the list if she's had a book out, so there's no reason that this won't make the list. I almost didn't add this one onto the list because I forgot that it would be included in this cutoff. But What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher came out at the beginning of this year. This is the only one on the list that I've actually read. I debated between this one or A Sorceress Comes to Call, but I think A Sorceress Comes to Call on Goodreads will be listed under fantasy, so I think there's the potential that T. Kingfisher will have a book under each category this year. Now I've got 5 books, so that's 15 books that I think I'm quite confident in. Now I've got 5 that are more like wild card predictions. So I have Blood Like Mine by Stuart Neville. I say this is a wild card because I haven't actually heard anyone talking about this, but it does have quite a good average rating on Goodreads. They've included it on lists throughout the year of like horror books coming out you should check out, horror books our readers are reading, so it's obviously on Goodreads' radar. And I would say that that's pretty much the description for all of these. They're ones that they've included on lists, so they obviously cat attack. I'll start saying he's like, no strokes on my word only. Diavola, I'm not actually sure how you pronounce that, by Jennifer Marie Thorne. This is actually, I don't know what it's about. I've been assuming it's a vampire book this whole time just based on the cover, but I don't actually know if it is a vampire book. It's a gothic book about family dynamics and a classic haunted house story. So if that's not vampires, I'm concerned. House of Bone and Rain by Gabino Iglesias. This is one that firstly, the cover offends my eyeballs with the colours, so they've done a good job on creating a sense of unease straight away. He has been on the long list previously with The Devil Takes You Home. He is a winner of a Bram Stoker Award, a Shelley Jackson Award. It's a haunted house book. I think that it would be quite strange if this isn't on the long list. In the Lonely Hours by Shannon Morgan is another one that I think is a bit of a wild card, but I think has the possibility. This is I think a eerie gothic story about a haunted castle with some supernatural elements. I think it's more literary leaning, so that's the potential genre crossover of people that might vote for it. And then finally we have The Haunting of Velwood by Gwendolyn Keast. Or Keasty. The author has won Bram Stoker Awards previously, which usually makes me think they have quite a good opportunity. This is a suburban ghost story. I've seen really, really good things about it from the people who have read it, it's just not very popular in my group or my crowd anyway, on my corner of the internet. So they are the 20 books that I think have the potential to be the long list books for the Goodreads Horror Award. What do you think of my list? Is there any you would swap out? Is there any that you think definite? Who do you think will give me like the top three, because there's no point asking who's going to be first because Stephen King's had a book out, but give me who you think might be like first, second, third. Oh no, just let me know in the comments. And you can follow me on TikTok and Instagram, everything's linked below. You can also find me weekly on my podcast Lazy Book Lovers, and I will see you soon. Bye. This is a queer horror book. Well, obviously it's horror.